Russia launches Africa Military Command to rival America's AFRICOM. With the progressive collapse of the French colonial empire in Africa, the United States is intensifying measures to strengthen its military presence on the continent and is negotiating the creation of a number of military bases in West Africa. As the US frantically seeks new military partnerships and bases across West Africa, Niger's Ministry of Defense has just said it would intensify joint efforts to stabilize the region with the Russian Ministry of Defense. The Russian Ministry of Defense has swiftly confirmed the agreements reached. In parallel, at the beginning of December, the UN made official its complete withdrawal from Mali after handing over the Mopti base to the Malian authorities. On November 14, after violent fighting against the Tuareg rebels, the Malian army triumphantly entered the city of Kidal, a separatist fiefdom that authorities had not controlled for more than a decade. However, the Malian soldiers were not alone. Some 600 Wagner mercenaries were part of the enormous convoy that left Gao for the mission. In several videos shared on social media, the mercenaries could be seen aboard armored vehicles circulating through the city after it fell to the army. Taking into account the deployment of the Afrika Korps and the Wagner PMC in the region, it is now very clear that in no time, we shall begin to see interesting footage of actual Russian boots and camouflage on ground in Niger, not as a technical or advisory team, but as an entrenched liberation army, much like America's AFRICOM on the continent. To help you understand this better, it is a no-brainer that Russia is expanding its influence and military presence in the Sahel at an unprecedented pace. Now, after consolidating itself in Mali, where Wagner Group mercenaries were decisive in the National Army's reconquest of Kidal against the Tuareg rebels last November, Moscow began laying the foundations for its deployment in Burkina Faso and negotiating with Niger to become a key military ally. To this end, the Russian government created a new military structure called AFRICOM, which works under the Defense Ministry. In this way, it intends to replace the Wagner Group and move away from a decentralized private company to one that is more directly controlled by the state. What this means is Russia's AFRICOM, that's here to replace Wagner PMC, will no longer have the level of independence that Wagner had, which tempted its leader Prigozhin to challenge the authorities in Moscow, and eventually, allegedly led to his untimely demise. This time, Russia's Ministry of Defense will be in control. So, you have a clear rival to America's Africa Command of the US Army, aka AFRICOM. AFRICOM's mission from the get-go was to be present in every single country on the continent of Africa. This AFRICOM will end that dream, as all the French-speaking African countries who have since switched loyalty from France to Russia, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, etc., are now actively in partnership with Russia's AFRICOM. Understandably, with Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Iran, UAE, and Ethiopia officially joining BRICS earlier on in the year, you can actually confidently replace Russia with BRICS when talking about the inspiration behind setting up AFRICOM. This is topic for another day. Things that have never happened before are happening now. Powers that have never been challenged for as long as you've been alive are now being challenged aggressively and may actually be dethroned in no time. Remind me again why we're maniacally descending into a global war. Well, there you have it. Our world was structured to be ruled by one king, the #unipolar world order. The emergence of another, the #multipolar world order, means wars without end. So, brace yourself for a violent, hegemonic global reset to one caged world under one blood-soaked crown through historic wars. Stay awake, friends. God bless Mother Africa. May God bless Russia.